Little is known about Darien I, the progenitor of this line, yet his influence is nonetheless significant. Darien I casts a long shadow over the legacy of his name. He is a symbol of origins, a point of reference for all subsequent kings who bore his name. His reign is more a subject of myth than historical fact, a common phenomenon in a world where stories blend with reality, creating a tapestry where history is as much about what is believed as what actually occurred. The most storied of all the Darians, Darien the Great, also known as Darien the Good, ruled the northern kingdom of Kjeldor during one of the most tumultuous periods in Dominaria's history, the final stages of the Ice Age and the nascent years of the Flood Ages. His early reign was marked by weakness and division as the once united Kjeldor splintered into factions, each vying for control and power. These factions, driven by self-interest, viewed Darien as a weak and ineffective ruler, a mere figurehead with little authority. His kingdom was a patchwork of competing interests, and it seemed that Darien's reign would be one of stagnation and decline. Yet, as history has shown time and again, leaders are often forged in the crucible of crisis. For Darien, that crisis came in the form of an assassination attempt orchestrated by the shadowy forces of the Knights of Stromgald, a group that had long been a thorn in the side of Kjeldor. This plot, however, was thwarted by two of the most powerful figures in Dominaria's history, the Archmage Eternal Kjeldor and the fiery planeswalker Jaya Ballard. Their intervention not only saved Darien's life, but also exposed the true mastermind behind the plot. Lim-Dul, a malevolent necromancer whose ambitions threatened to engulf the entire world. This event was a turning point for Darien. With the treacherous elements within his military purged, he began to consolidate power in a way that had not been seen in generations. He rallied the remaining factions under his banner, creating a unified army under the command of General Varchild. This new force was not just a military power, it was a symbol of Kjeldor's renewed strength and unity. Darien also turned his attention to the merchants, who had long held sway over the kingdom's economy. By bringing them under his control, he ensured that the economic lifeblood of Kjeldor was firmly in the hands of the crown. Moreover, he secured the allegiance of the mages thanks to the support of Kjeldor, whose influence in the arcane arts was unmatched. With these alliances in place, Darien was able to turn his attention to external threats. Chief among them was Lim-Dul, whose machinations had nearly brought Kjeldor to its knees. But Darien was no longer the weak king of his early reign. He had become a formidable leader, one capable of forging alliances with former enemies. Among these new allies were the Balduvians, a fierce warrior people who had long been at odds with Kjeldor. Through diplomatic efforts and shared purpose, Darien formed an alliance with the Balduvian chieftain Lovisa Coldeyes, and together they prepared to face Lim-Dul in battle. The battle that followed was one of the most significant in Dominaria's history. It was not just a clash of armies, but a struggle for the very future of the world. On one side stood Darien and his allies, united by a common cause. On the other, Lim-Dul and his forces of darkness, determined to spread their blight across the land. The conflict culminated in a legendary duel between Darien and Hakon, the undead leader of the Stromgald forces. The duel lasted from dusk till dawn, a grueling test of strength and endurance that symbolized the broader struggle between light and darkness. Ultimately, it was not Darien's skill with a sword that won the day, but the loyalty and bravery of his men who rushed to his aid in the final moments of the duel. Hakon was slain, and with his death, the forces of Stromgald were broken, their power shattered. In the aftermath of this victory, Darien's position as king was stronger than ever, but he was not content to rest on his laurels. He understood that the peace he had won was fragile, and that the world was changing in ways that would require new approaches to governance. 20 years after the battle, he and Lovisa Coldeyes, once again aided by Kjeldor, took the unprecedented step of merging their two nations into a new entity, New Argive. This new kingdom was a testament to Darien's vision and leadership, a place where the diverse peoples of Kjeldor and Balduvia could live in harmony. The legacy of Darien the Great was carried on by his descendants, though not all were able to live up to his example. His grandson, known as Darien the Bold, and his great-grandson, Darien the Foolish, both struggled to maintain the strength and unity that their ancestor had achieved. Over time, the name Darien fell out of favor, only to be revived generations later by a different royal house. By this point, historians had grown weary of trying to keep track of the many kings who bore the name, and they began to number them instead. The final chapter in the story of the Darians concerns King Darien 48. He ruled New Argive during a period of renewed crisis, marked by the emergence of Phyrexian sleeper agents, insidious beings who could infiltrate and corrupt even the most powerful of nations. Darien, conflicted and fearful, initially sought to withdraw from the world, to build walls around his kingdom and wait for the danger to pass. But his loyal advisor Baird convinced him otherwise, urging him to face the threat head-on as his ancestor had done. Tragically, Darien's trust was misplaced. In a fateful decision, he appointed a man named Sten to lead the defense against the Phyrexian threat, unaware that Sten himself was a sleeper agent. This betrayal led to the downfall of Argive, a once great city and a cornerstone of New Argive. In the end, Darien's reign, like so many before him, was marked by both great promise and ultimate failure. The story of the Darians is not just a chronicle of kings, but a reflection of the cycles of history itself. Periods of weakness and strength, of unity and division, of hope and despair. It is a story that reminds us that leadership is not just about wielding power, but about the choices that define that power and the legacies those choices leave behind.